And hello, and welcome to the Ball and All podcast. It has been a while. I took a bit of a hiatus trying to sort my life out. Had a lot of other sporting things going on, so just the podcasting had to sit on the back burner. But I'm back just in time for the NBA Finals. If you don't know who I am, well, you'll find out soon enough. My name is Mpho, and I am the host and producer of the Ball and All podcast. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram as the banner shows at the bottom. But most importantly, please do subscribe to the YouTube channel if you like the content, and also like the video so it can go widely in this basketball sphere. But most importantly, now I just had a little bit of a think and thought I could start with a new segment, which is called "What in the World Happened This Week." So it just tells you everything that's happened in this week in a short, bite-sized chunk that will kind of give you a little bit of what's going on this week. So let's get into that. So what in the world happened this week? We had the two NBA finalists found themselves head-to-head. We found out who they are, and that is the Phoenix Suns against the Milwaukee Bucks. But the other thing that happened in the basketball world is we've had Olympic qualifiers for men. And there were 4 more spots left for the planes to Tokyo, and 4 teams got those. Those teams are Slovenia, Luka Doncic beating out Lithuania, making their way into the Olympic Games. For a country of 2 million people, they beat a team with Jonas Valanciunas as well as Domantas Sabonis. The next team was Germany with Moritz Wagner, who just blew the competition away. They played Brazil in their final game, and they made it through their qualifiers on that end. Italy with Nico Mannion of the draftee of the Warriors. He took his Italy side with Nicola Melli to the Olympic Games. And the most important one, the interesting one, is Sadaransky's Czech Republic, Sadaransky of the Bulls, beating out a star-studded Canada team with RJ Barrett, a very strong Canada team out in Canada, actually, to qualify for the Olympic Games. So the Olympic Games looks like this. The groupings look like this. In Group A, you've got Iran, France, the USA, and the Czech Republic. In Group B, it's Australia, Germany, Italy, Nigeria. In Group C, Argentina, Japan, Spain, and Slovenia. So you've got those sorted out. Now, moving on to the next topic in what in the world happened this week. The WNBA announced their All-Star roster. Their All-Stars game will be played on the 14th of July, so 8 days away from today. And they've effectively made it a practice game for Team USA. And so here are the All-Star rosters. Some first-time All-Stars. If you look there on Team WNBA, you've got Kalia Copper of the Chicago Sky. She averaged 13 points per game for this Chicago side. You've got Betnijah Laney, who's been incredible for the New York Liberty. She's having a career high year at 19.7 points per game. Arika Ogunbowale, remember, she was a rookie last year. There was no All-Star game last year. And so this year, she makes her first appearance as one of the leading scorers in the WNBA. Her teammate, wing Satu Sabali, who I'm excited because I think she's such a great player. She averages 6.1 rebounds, which is high in the league, as well as 13 points per game for the Wings. And then finally, as a debut, Courtney Williams of the Atlanta Dream. She's had a great start to the season, and she really deserves that call-up. On the Team USA, there's only one player there, and that's Ariel Atkins of the Washington Mystics. She averaging 17.5 points per game for the Washington Mystics. So she makes it into a star-studded Team USA roster that has multiple MVPs in AJ Wilson, Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, and Brianna Stewart. There, I was looking for her name as well. So that's a very, very good star-studded team. The Team WNBA also has an All-Star, the one All-Star in Candace Parker. So that's what's happened this week in the basketball world. Now let's move over to the NBA Finals. What I'm going to be giving you is 5 things to look out for in the NBA Finals that could sway the NBA Finals either way. Just to give you a little bit of a taste of how it's going to be, the first game starts tonight on Tuesday, Wednesday morning for the South Africans if you're watching from South Africa, and so it's in Phoenix. And it'll be quite interesting to see how it goes. But one of the first things that I think we should all be looking out for is Giannis's availability and his impact. He's had that hyperextended knee, and the question is whether he'll be playing in the series. I do think he will play in the series. Coming out of the Bucks, the questions were whether Giannis was going to play, who was available to play in a Game 7, should a Game 7 be there. So I do think he's closer to return. The other question is what level of Giannis is he? Is he 100%? Is he 80%? Is he 70? Is he 60? Also about the impact, having such impact injuries, how do you come back? It might take a few games for him to come back. But if Giannis is fully fit and plays in about 6 games this series or 5 games this series, they have a chance to win. If Giannis comes in from Game 4 and this Bucks team has stolen a game out of Phoenix, the Bucks would be favored to win going forward with Giannis in there. He is their best defensive presence. He is the guy who gets them going early on in games. They do fade away towards the back end, and that's a coaching thing, and I'll talk about that later on. But Giannis's availability is important. If he's not available, this series falls all the way to the Suns. I think the matchups become a lot easier for the Suns, and we'll talk about that in one of the other points. But that's the first thing about this is Giannis. If Giannis is there, you can't fight it. The Bucks probably are on their way to their first NBA title in a very long time. The guard play. So I'm talking about this in terms of guard play. I know Middleton plays more of a wing, but in some of these in this Bucks lineup, he's more of a 2 guard with Jrue Holiday being the point guard, and you've got CP3 on the other end for the Suns with Devin Booker as the 2 guard. This series without Giannis, if Giannis isn't available, and even to a certain extent if with Giannis, depending on how well the Suns nullify him, is going to go down to how well these 2 sets of guards play and how well they score. The better scoring guards right now are the Suns, but we've seen without Giannis how well Middleton and Jrue Holiday can come through. And so it's going to be quite interesting to see how they defend against each other and also how they attack against each other. The Bucks have a better defensive guard duo to the Suns, but the Suns are much better offensively. And there are no scrubs defensively as well with Booker and things, but I do think the Suns hold a little bit of the guard play, especially if they bring up this if they do this whole this high-low screen with your big coming up, screening for the point guard and opening up the mid-range, because the Bucks like to do the drop coverage. That's going to be quite interesting to see how they do that. And also on the other end, how DeAndre Ayton and probably even Saric, if he might come in, or Jay Crowder play that pick and roll with Jrue Holiday. But from a Bucks perspective, Jrue Holiday and Chris Middleton have become a lot freer without Giannis on the floor. They are imposing, and Chris Middleton's playing more like a 2/1 or 1B. And Drew's playing like the guy they bought. They bought him for shooting, with his defense being as good, because Eric Bledsoe is also a similarly good defensive player, but they wanted a better shooting out of that point guard position, and he hasn't come through in the playoffs. It worked well in the regular season, but it hasn't come through that well in the playoffs. So that's something that we're going to watch out for. But that's a key thing. Watch how the guard matchups are matching up. Who guards Devin Booker? I think Jrue Holiday might guard Devin Booker and leave CP3 on Chris Middleton, because Jrue Holiday is the better scorer. But also see how well both guards get to their spots in the paint to score. Obviously, Milwaukee doesn't score a lot in the mid range, largely because they're dependent on Giannis and Brook at the rim, and then they try to shoot threes above the break threes a lot. Whereas the Suns go into the mid range, and that's where they eat and that's where they feast with Chris Paul and Devin Booker. So that's going to be something to watch. Styles make fights, and this one is quite more heavily put down onto the Suns. I think the Suns have this one over the Bucks, but the Bucks are no scraps there. The next one is ancillary scores. So after Giannis, Ayton, Chris Middleton, Chris Paul, and Devin Booker, and also Jrue Holiday, those are the key stars in the series. who else is going to get points? If Giannis is unavailable, Brook Lopez is kind of key and important for you in how well he becomes Brooklyn Brook, the one who is living at the rim and not taking a lot of threes. Bobby Portis' scoring becomes quite important. Bryn Forbes' scoring will become even more important in this series, especially with his ability to shoot from three. This Bucks team can't shoot that well from three, so it's going to be quite interesting to see who from the Bucks comes through, because it's been heavily on those three. Whereas in the Suns, Mikal Bridges can give you a hot night once in a while. Cam Payne has been excellent coming off the bench as an extra guard to kind of add a little bit more pace to a team that does, as a lineup that doesn't have a Chris Paul. He's been a very good scorer, so it's going to be interesting to see how he does. And if Cam Payne and Mikal Bridges and Jay Crowder are hot from three, the Bucks haven't defended the three ball well this playoffs and this regular season, so that's going to probably fall over to the Suns. But on the other end, because Milwaukee they do have shooters from three, they're just not falling and not taking the shots. Bryn Forbes is going to be quite important in the finals, I think. And the way they move the ball, the Bucks need to try to move the ball a little bit quicker to get some of their corner shooters. PJ Tucker is a very good corner shooter, but they haven't used him. They've just only used him for defense. So they might have to unlock that other scoring facet. Bobby Portis has come through in those non-Giannis games. So if there are going to be games without Giannis, Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis, PJ Tucker probably will have to step up. Bryn Forbes as well. Pat Connaughton hasn't shot well. He's going to have to find a way to impose himself in the offensive end in this series. And then the other thing that we need to look at is the battle of the bigs. So in the regular season games, Jay Crowder, who's normally the 4 in this playoffs for the Suns, didn't play in those games. They decided to go with a 2 big lineup because DeAndre Ayton's big issue is they used DeAndre Ayton to guard Giannis, and then they used Saric to guard Brook Lopez, or even Frank Kaminsky to guard Brook Lopez. We saw a bit of Frank Kaminsky in the Lakers series and never seen him again. So that's going to be quite interesting to see. If Giannis comes in, they're probably going to go with a 2 big lineup and have like a 3 guard set or 2 guard with a wing, maybe Mikal Bridges or Cam Johnson. But it's going to be quite interesting to see. And this one is literally reliant on the physicality that DeAndre Ayton can bring. He's been inconsistent in the playoffs from a physicality perspective, especially in that Clippers series with smaller bigs. Yes, but this time he's going to get guys his size, and he needs to be able to impose himself, bring a lot of energy, especially in the first quarter, because the Milwaukee Bucks, not the Brooklyn Nets, the Milwaukee Bucks are the best team in the playoffs in the first quarter. They are plus 15 against their opponents in the first quarter. So you're going to have to bring in a lot of energy, defensively rebounding, offensively rim running, especially with Chris Paul in those pick and rolls and getting Ayton rim running. But on the other end, with the Bucks have always been physical, and so I've always known them to be the land of trees. Even in that Toronto run, they were the land of trees. Everyone's like, how do you shoot over them? And that's going to be something that the Bucks are going to try and replicate, right? In terms of sealing off the rim, which is they're the best defensive team at the rim in the playoffs. And on top of that, I was largely with Giannis and Brook together. But Bobby Portis just kind of gives Ayton a little bit of respite there and allows the Suns a little bit more flexibility. But from an offensive end, they're going to need to try and score a lot more. Without Giannis dominating the paint from a transition perspective, they're going to need Brook to do that. But without Giannis, it gives Ayton a little bit more cover and a little bit more calm and a little bit more ability to impose himself. But having Giannis and Brook might be a little bit too much for Ayton on his own. So you're going to have to force the Suns to try and do something and add another big, because I think Jay Crowder cannot guard Giannis. And he can't guard Brook Lopez. So you're going to need another center in there. So it's going to be quite interesting to see what Monty Williams does. But if Ayton is quiet this series, the Suns lose. They need to lay their foundation with DeAndre Ayton, and they need to move forward. That's what the Bucks do. They lay their foundation with Giannis and Brook. Once that has been laid throughout, then you allow your guards to come in. So you kind of need to set that through. But the other thing about this is, the other thing that we're going to look at in the next one is how both teams work in the transition with their bigs as well, because you need both guys rim running. You need Brook and Giannis rim running. You need Ayton rim running, because from a Suns perspective, the Suns are not that well. They're not that bad, but from a defensive, that's the part of the rim is part of the Suns game that they don't cover that well. They don't defend that well, whereas they defend the perimeter very well with those wings. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how the Bucks get their offense inside, and also how the Suns try and break down this seal that Milwaukee put in front of the ring. So that's going to be quite interesting to see. But finally, the last one will be the coaching adjustments. How do Monty Williams and Mike Budenholzer set their teams up going forward? I think Mike Budenholzer found something good in these non-Giannis games where Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton got a little bit better and a lot more freer, and this offense was moving smoother. So if you think about it, there's a stat from NBA that says with Drew Holiday with Giannis is 4 points worse. With Giannis on the court is 4 points worse than with him off the court. With him off the court, he is, so he's 4 points better. So it's 4 points worse with Giannis on the court. So that kind of says something about how Bud, if Giannis comes back, needs to try and get Drew Holiday his touches and get Drew Holiday a lot more aggressive. And that's what you kind of want from Bud. And also being more comfortable giving the ball in late game situations to Chris Middleton and playing Giannis at the 5, taking Brook Lopez out, and maybe bringing in a Bobby Portis or Pat Connaughton for the defense and allowing Chris to cook. Because Chris is a much better scorer, is the best scorer on this team, shooter and everything else. Obviously, Giannis at the rim is incredible, but late game situations, mid-range 2s, 3s, Chris Middleton's your guy. So it's a reluctance of Bud to move away from Giannis and go to Chris, and that's what we want to see, because he hasn't made a lot of adjustments. He's been playing the same way throughout the playoffs. The only adjustments he's made is out of injuries. Whereas Monty Williams, he's willing to make adjustments. He's willing to try new things and try new combinations. And that's why I think the series might be big for him, giving Saric a lot of minutes, or maybe Saric and Kaminsky sharing minutes to kind of equal that Bucks front court. The thing about it is watch how they defend Giannis when he does come through in the series. Do they give him a wall of 3-4 players? And how Bud gets Giannis going, avoiding the half court. This team, the Bucks are the best transition team in the league. But because they score a lot of transition points, but they score every transition basket is 1.06 points per possession, which is very low. Whereas from a transition perspective with the Suns, they are like a mid-ranging team in the playoffs, but they score, I think it's 1.26 in transition. So they're a lot better in transition. So those are the type of things you need to get Giannis open. You need to get Giannis going to the foul line. But what I do think from the regular season games that I've seen is these teams. So the Suns beat the Bucks twice by 1 point each time. One game went to overtime. Devin Booker free throws either way. Free throw shooting is going to be key. The Bucks are 71% free throw shooters. The Suns are the best free throw shooters in the history of the NBA at 86.4%. So that's where I think the series might end up going, and you might even see a hacker Giannis if it continues and Giannis is playing. So that's going to be quite key to see. But from that, you will find whichever coach can make the adjustments quicker could possibly be the coach that wins the NBA title and championship. So it's prediction time for me. Who do I think will win? And my prediction is Suns in 6 without Giannis, Suns in 7 with Giannis. I think home court advantage. They have a better coaching. It's a coaching mismatch on the Suns. Their guard play is slightly better. Even though the Bucks are a better defensive team, the Suns are the second best defensive team in the playoffs. I think the Suns take it through, and CP3 finally gets his ring, and his legacy is solidified as one of the greatest point guards we've ever seen in the history of the NBA. So that's how I see it's going to go. Let me know if you disagree with me, but I'm so excited about the series, and we'll keep talking about it, and I'll try to do a review of every game as we go into the NBA playoffs. So I'll see you tomorrow for the start for the review of Game 1 in Phoenix. Enjoy the game, and we'll chat soon. Le sale, kakahiso.